Welcome back, everyone. Mr. Allen here. I'm just going to try to quickly run through sort of how I see the course running this year. Just give everybody an idea of kind of the expectations a little bit here. And so that maybe there's not so many questions about is this something I should be submitting and handing in and so on. So this is the basic layout of the course. You can see sort of as soon as you go in, you have updates at the top telling you that there's a quiz that's not been attempted, a new email. Down the left side here, I try to post every couple of days some sort of a news item just explaining that something new has been posted, or there's an upcoming assignment, or I'll be away on this day, but I'll answer emails the next day. Anything to that effect, sort of things that pertain to your class specifically this year, and which possibly wouldn't pertain to the same class next year. You can also see the calendars off to the side here. And if we open the calendar up, we'll see these bolded dates are dates for which there is something listed. Now, if you need to, you can go to the main calendar at the top and get an idea what those are. So it gives you, again, a more global look at it. As far as this specific calendar goes, again, just giving you an idea that there's something on each of those days. The upcoming events gives you a little bit more information as well. So there's sort of a couple of different places to go there for the calendar. It's just giving you an idea of how I perceive the timing of the course to be running. If you're several days behind, you might want to start catching up. If you're a day or so behind, then understand that you're probably in a fine spot. I post the work with the idea that it will be today's work, tomorrow's work, and so on. But if you're a day or two off because of, you're away for a sporting event or a band trip or anything else, or you're ill, or you're overwhelmed with work for another class, I'll understand that sort of thing, and it's not the biggest deal in the world. And then, of course, the bottom down here has the content browser. That is the same information that's under content in case you don't know that. So you can click on content, and it just kind of gives you a rundown of what's going on, sort of what's posted for the course, in this case just in Unit 1 specifically, or Unit 1 is what's showing up specifically. The content browser has the same information in a slightly different format, maybe a little bit more user-friendly because it doesn't have some of that extra information and it's just a little cleaner look. But both locations have the exact same information. Now what I really want to discuss here is this checkpoint permutations. And you can sort of see up here this one quiz not attempted. So under the quiz section, I've created this thing called a checkpoint. It also appears, as you just saw, under the content browser. And I would tend to sort of use the content browser or the content as my guidelines. If I've completed this, I'm probably working on this. If I've completed that, I'm probably working on this. And then sort of following all the permutations work here, there's a checkpoint. And the checkpoint is literally exactly as it sounds. It's a spot that I'm just kind of verifying when you get to. It's a quiz, but it's a quiz that's not going to hurt your mark at all. So essentially the way I have it set up, there's going to be a few questions. In this case, I think there are 6 in this first one. Sometimes there might only be 3, sometimes there might be 8. And all the checkpoints will be set up the same way. You will have potentially 2 attempts at them. The first attempt, if you get over a certain mark, and I tend to use 75% as my guideline, if you get over 75% on your first attempt, it will open up the next assignment or the next unit or the next section of work. And the way I tend to set them up is if you get over 75% on your first attempt, it will open up the next section of work. If you don't get over 75%, you'll get a second attempt. And so here, I don't really know what any of these are. I'm just kind of guessing. And we'll see how I do. And so I can save each response individually, save all the responses, or just submit the quiz. In this case, it's only 5 questions long. Oh, I have an unanswered question. I certainly don't want to do that. So now I'm going to put 66 in there, and I will submit the quiz. You're about to submit the quiz. Are you sure? Absolutely, I'm sure. and another "Are you sure?" And what you'll see is you get a bit of feedback just sort of on, basically what you answered, and what you got wrong, I suppose. So the questions that show up for me are only the questions that I got wrong. If I got one right, it wouldn't be showing up here. Turns out I didn't get any of them right. And so it just kind of allows me to sort of maybe go back and say, gee, I probably should have done a bit better on this. Maybe I need to look up how to do these things again. And you can see I got 0 out of 6. Once I've made that first attempt, again, if I had over 75, section 1.4 should show up at that point. Because I didn't, I can take the quiz again, and this time on my second attempt, regardless of how I do, I'm going to get the next section opened up. But what this does is it allows me to kind of get a feel for when you're getting to each section, and at the same time get a feel for who maybe understood the sections better and who understood them less well. And you can see, again, I got all the wrong answers. Hey, but I'm showing you all the right answers, so I should get away from that. Now, all that said, now we just sort of show 1.4 combinations is there. Quick little note to tell me that it's been updated so that I can actually see that it's there. And now I can access it and work through it as well. So what that's really, the reason I wanted to show you that, and the other thing I wanted to explain is, I consider this course, even though it's an e-learning course, to be a more traditional course. It's a math class. I don't need to collect 100 things from you every single day, collect something. I know a lot of the e-learning courses are set up that way, that what shows up as the assignment in each case is something that you often have to submit. The word assignment happens to be on these pages because they were originally created that way. I've rewritten a lot of them, but I haven't changed every single occurrence of the word assignment, or I didn't bother trying to change every occurrence of the word assignment to say classwork. But that's really what this is. This is your classwork. And just like it would be in a regular class, you kind of have your lesson, whether it's a video, whether it's something to read through, whether it's questions to sort of try and work through, and then you have practice questions. My assumption is if you're having trouble with the practice questions or any of them, you will ask me hopefully very specific questions. When I get the sort of that general, I'm not sure how to do the questions like 6 and 7, that doesn't maybe help me as much as saying in question 6 it said such and such, I attempted this, clearly that wasn't right. Can you explain to me where I'm going wrong? Or sort of give me some feedback as to what you tried, what you thought, and maybe we can get an idea of kind of where you're going wrong as well at that point. But basically what I'm saying is these things that say assignment in the actual lessons are going to be just your regular everyday assignment, your regular everyday work. When you have a true assignment, it will show up differently. It'll be one of these things unto itself. It'll say, assignment sections 1.1 to 1.4 or something like that. It'll be very, very clear. As soon as you click on it, it'll sort of show you this. There'll be a link to a Dropbox so that you can submit it when you're done. And basically what you'll do is you'll work on it on paper. If you try to ask questions, I will answer the questions to some extent, but of course if it's something that's for marks, I'm not going to answer it outright. I may lead you a certain way, I may explain something to you, but at that point the assumption is you've done all this work, you've asked any questions you needed to during this work, and now you're doing your assignment that follows it. And so it'll be very, very clear in the end when something is worth marks and when it is due. And I'll be fairly flexible on those sorts of things. If I give you a due date and you miss it, do not panic. Make sure you let me know, or I will let you know once I realize you've missed it. And within hopefully a couple of days, it'll come in and that will be fine. So the due dates will be scheduled due dates, but with some flexibility to them. And so basically those things will be part of your mark. We will have probably 2 written tests during the year where I will email a copy of a test to your home schools. You will have to get somebody to actually supervise it. I will email that person the test. They will print it off for you, you will write it, you'll hand it back to them, and they'll scan it and send it back to me. Sort of very traditional tests in that way. There'll be a final exam, of course, and there'll be some sort of a project towards the end of the course as well. And so the majority of your marks will be 2 tests, 1 exam, 1 project, and then some smaller assignments and possibly some online quizzes that are actually counting quizzes, not checkpoints specifically. And then finally, just a note on recording the checkpoints. I will put checkpoints into the Markbook program that I use to generate your marks for your report cards, but those marks will not count against you come midterm and final marks. If they help you, I'll leave them in. If they don't help your mark, I'll drop them. So they'll show up in the Markbook reports along the way so that we can see how you did in them and that you did them or whether you did them. But again, they won't hurt your final marks. Okay, so hopefully that kind of helps clear up a little bit. The things marked as assignments inside of each of the sections are just your daily work. Once you get your first real assignment, which will be coming up, I guess, early next week now, it'll be very clear. You will know for sure that it's an assignment. You'll know how to submit it and everything else. And your marks will be generated based on 2 real tests, 2 major tests, if you will, and some smaller assignments and online quizzes. And then, of course, there'll be a final exam and a small project towards the end of the course as well.